government workers like veterans are unemployed. All of those things are taking a toll on Donald Trump. And as we head into the State of the Union, that's not good news for Donald Trump.
I think Donald Trump is doing an amazing job so far on the things that he ran on.
In this video, Scott Jennings once again faces off with his liberal co-workers over at CNN. Scott Jennings and the panel discussed Donald Trump's meeting with Zelensky as well as Elon Musk and Doge. With that, let's watch Scott Jennings expose this CNN panel for exactly how dumb all of them are.
President Trump has put together, I think, the best cabinet ever. The president is the commander-in-chief. I do what the president asks.
Have you said thank you once this entire meeting? No, in this entire meeting, have you said thank you? Offer some words of appreciation for the United States of America and the president who's trying to save your country.
Welcome back. My panel is here. And one of the things I want to put on the table here is whether what we saw between Elon Musk and the J.D. Vance sort of behavior and the theater, if you will, that went into a lot of the substance that really matters, is it kind of Apprentice 2.0? Congressman, thank you so much for being here. I'll start with you.
Yeah, you know, right now I represent a district with a lot of federal workers, for instance, and a lot of people who touch foreign policy. And I've learned a couple of things. One, we're losing a lot of really critical, important people. There's a brain drain in our federal workforce. And a lot of the people that are being cut are actually people who are very critical to a lot of these government services that people really rely on. So it's going to hurt every American. And the second thing I keep hearing is that people are having to take loyalty tests, essentially. And really, this is just, this is not about cutting waste, fraud, and abuse at this point. This is about, you know, who's loyal to the president, revenge on political enemies, and control over the federal government. And so this is bad for all Americans, not just federal workers in my district.
Aaron?
I think that what you're seeing with Elon Musk at Doge right now is that the largest, fastest growing employer under the Biden administration was the government. And that is going to be reined back in under President Trump. He made very clear that the government was not going to continue to keep growing. And that means that waste, fraud, and abuse are going to be cut out. And for Trump to have Elon up there, Elon can be the foil in this. Democrats are mindlessly chasing Elon Musk around D.C., over to USAID, over to whatever department they want to stand in front of, and try to make noise instead of focusing on what's most important to the American people. Democrats don't have a strategy right now, so they're chasing Elon. And for the vice president right there, he was always very much about there needed to be.
Yeah, this lady's right. Talked about it for a while. The Democrats don't have a strategy. It just shifted from parroting Donald Trump as Hitler to now just opposing everything the president does without any real critical examination. They also keep trying to fool us into thinking that every federal worker is invaluable. That's not true of any workforce, and it's definitely not true about the federal workforce. Remember, a lot of these people are an absolute drain on our tax dollars. Just a bad investment in general. And here's a question. Here's a question I have for you guys. Let me know in the comments. I keep hearing from Democrats that we're losing all of these federal workers to critical services. And I don't know the answer to this. I'm leaning one way, obviously, but I don't know the answer. Do you think with all of these job cuts that the American people will feel it at all? Because if we don't feel it, it just reinforces the fact that a lot of these folks just were not necessary to run these various agencies. But worst case scenario, American people do feel it somehow, and then you can rehire for positions that were obviously important. I guess I'd rather trim the fat first, then have to build back up, than just leave everything status quo and just keep stacking on top of a bunch of garbage we already have there. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Anyway, let's go back to the video.
Limits to what we were doing with Ukraine. So again, him being the foil there, setting the stage for Trump to be able to say, yeah, actually, that's right. You should be more appreciative about what we've been able to do to help you maintain your sovereignty and fight off the Russians. So both of these can be great foils for Trump to stand there and cut the deal and make the government swallow.
Well, but there is no deal when it comes to Ukraine, and actually the only
Democrats
person,
did a good job.
Well, the only person who benefited from the outburst on Friday was Vladimir Putin. It did not benefit Ukraine. It did not benefit America. And I know that the White House likes to take a victory lap on that, but it only benefited Vladimir Putin. There is a CNN poll that just came out this morning that talks about how 52% of Americans disapprove of the job that Trump is doing right now. If you look closer at the poll, yes, you have Republicans approving by overwhelming amount. You have Democrats disapproving, but the real number is a 59% of independents who don't approve of what he is doing right now. And so things like cutting the government, ensuring that federal government workers like veterans are unemployed, all of those things are taking a toll on Donald Trump. And as we head into the State of the Union, that's not good news for Donald Trump.
I think Donald Trump is doing an amazing job so far on the things that he ran on, immigration. The border is, just his taking office, the border is effectively shut down. The attitude change from the federal government effectively closed the border. Look at the people coming across now. Look at the encounters today versus what was going on with Biden. I think on March 4th, you're going to hear them talk a lot about the success on immigration. As it relates to Ukraine, look, Zelensky made a huge mistake on Friday. All he had to do was show up and sign this deal, and he just couldn't do it. And sometimes these guys, when they put on the military uniform, they have trouble taking it off. He needs to take off the military garb, put on the garb of diplomacy, and understand that he's got an honest new broker on the field who can actually help him end this war, maintain his sovereignty, maintain prosperity for the Ukrainians. And regarding Elon and the bureaucracy, if I just may respond to something you said.
If you like watching videos like this one, like and subscribe. We'd really appreciate it. Let's get back to the video.
About the bureaucracy. There seems to be, when Republicans are president, that this idea that the bureaucracy and the government should not be responsive to the political leadership of the executive branch. That is totally false. It has nothing to do with a loyalty test, but it does have to do with whether or not the unelected bureaucracy is responsive to the political oversight of the government. And Democrats right now do not seem to believe that the president should be able to be the president.
You should come to my town halls. You should come and talk to some of these federal workers. Many of them are veterans, in fact, but many of them are very competent. What we're doing is we're prioritizing loyalty over competency.
I don't doubt it.
That's bad for
but
our
I
country
prioritize the political leadership. Elections have consequences, and they need to understand.
But critical programs are being cut off. Contractors are having their contracts canceled for things that really will hurt the American people if we end up doing this.
But right now, these are just fear-mongering talking points at this point from Democrats.
It's really happening.
No, I understand that people are losing their jobs, and I am sympathetic to that. But all Democrats, you have yet to actually point to something concrete that has been cut, an employee that has been cut, a service that has been cut, that has caused
let me just let him finish.
devastation.
We had people who were in charge of tax fraud losing their jobs. What are you talking about?
Because what? Democrats wanted to add 84,000 more IRS agents. That is bloated bureaucracy that's failing the people. That is not a critical. Tax fraud is not a critical
Let the
need for
congressman
the
respond.
Of course, a Democrat congressman wants to make sure the IRS is nice and fully stocked with agents so they can squeeze as much money as possible out of the American people. That's their MO. So according to this guy, because one guy lost his job that investigates tax fraud, does that mean that we're not going to investigate tax fraud anymore? Is that what they're insinuating? I don't get it. Because is the money that the IRS recovers from tax fraud more or less than we'll recover from getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse? It's not even close. It just shows that Democrats have zero good reasons to oppose Doge. This idiot gave us one anecdote. Well, I'm convinced. Anyway, let's get back to the video.
Absolutely is. I was at the Department of Justice. They're telling, essentially attorneys, career prosecutors, if you are not loyal to Trump, then you should get out of here. He fired the January 6th prosecutors. He's trying to fire FBI agents, 5,000 FBI agents who worked on January 6th cases. If you fire 5,000 FBI agents, we will have a terrorist attack, unfortunately.
We have elections for a reason in this country. We vest all executive authority in a president of the United States, not in an unelected bureaucracy, not in independent agencies, but in a president. The president's agenda matters. When a Republican is president, the bureaucracy resists. It has to stop.
That sounds more like a king. It does not sound like
Sounds like our
president of the United
Constitution to me.
It sounds, well, they're not upholding the Constitution.
Yeah, it's not our Constitution to impede on the spending power of Congress, for instance, and take away agencies that we authorized. So this is not constitutional at all.
But then Democrats want to sit here and complain about that, but had no issue whatsoever when Joe Biden defied the Supreme Court.
Despite all the Democrats' efforts, Donald Trump's getting things done. He's securing the border. He's saving the American people money. And they can complain about ticky-tack things all they want and tell a little story here or there, but I just don't understand an average American who wouldn't want to reduce the waste of the U.S. government, to pay down our debt, and to figure out who's involved in all of the corruption that's making all of our money just fly out the door. But we want to hear from you. What do you think about the Trump-Vance-Zelensky meeting? And what do you think about Elon Musk and the Doge team and how they're doing so far? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, as always, really appreciate you watching, and we will see you on the next one.